Greetings, my shadow dwellers. Today, I weave for you a story unlike any other, a tale of jagged fragments, twisted reflections, and labyrinthine truths. They say the mind is a mosaic of countless memories, emotions, identities. What, then, becomes of us when the pieces no longer fit? Listen closely, and mind the edges of the tale, for they are as sharp as broken glass. In the ancient heart of London, where cobblestones murmur secrets to the night, there stands an antique shop simply called Nightfall. Agnes Moran, the proprietress, is a woman of timeless allure, though not for her beauty, but for the faint air of tragedy that clings to her like the scent of old roses. People don't just browse Nightfall, they are drawn to it. And once you're inside, well, you rarely leave empty-handed or unscathed. It was into this shop one storm-laden evening that a man named Colin stumbled. Colin was a mosaic artist by trade, a creator of breathtaking stained glass that turned sunlight into stories. But his art had long betrayed him. The whispers among his colleagues were cruel. Talent turned to ash at the hands of drink and despair. Once celebrated, Colin now worked in obscurity, eking out a meager existence in a rented studio. Yet, on this night, it wasn't broken bottles or hopeless cravings that drove him. It was a whisper. Literally. Something that called his name as he wandered past the Nightfall shop. The first thing you notice about Nightfall is not its treasures, but its atmosphere. A tangible weight. A mixing bowl of cloves, amber, and dust greets the senses, stirring every hair at the nape of your neck. Looking for something particular? The voice came from the shadowed corner of the room, Agnes herself. Her eyes shimmered like oil slicks, multi-hued, mesmerizing, and when her gaze settled upon you, you felt known. Colin stammered, offering some excuse about just being curious, but Agnes approached with the gliding grace of someone used to tying invisible threads around her prey. She gestured to a display case filled with jagged pieces of stained glass, each fragment unique, some with ancient-looking symbols, some almost vibrating with an unexplained energy. "A collector and an artist," she said cryptically, twirling a shard in her elegant, gloved fingers. "Aren't you, Colin?" He didn't recall telling her his name, nor did he recall agreeing to purchase the box she placed before him, an assortment of glass fragments wrapped in black velvet. They were sinister, yet irresistible. "Be careful, Colin. When the mind tips into obsession, it doesn't flinch at danger, even if the danger is staring back from the tangles of reflection." At first, he only displayed them. Odd and chaotic as they were, these shards screamed artistry, and to Colin's surprise, ideas began to flood him. Visions of works long abandoned, shapes forming from the chaos. It wasn't long before he worked sleepless nights assembling those fragments into a masterpiece, a stained glass window like no other, swirling with mythological figures and unearthly scenes. But art, my dear night wanderers, has a way of consuming the artist entirely. He worked feverishly, ignoring the strange sensations creeping in. The odd sensation that the pieces whispered at night, rearranged themselves, or glimmered as if hiding vast stories too deep for human comprehension. Until one night, the mosaic came alive. It was subtle at first, just faint plays of light moving across its surface, as if unseen hands traced it. But soon, Colin began to notice patterns. Figures in the glass shifted. Sometimes they mimicked him. Other times they loomed like watchers, their gazes unbearably knowing. Holding Agnes's shard box by the light, Colin noticed strange markings skinning his own palm, mirroring symbols etched into some of the pieces. They burned, and then came the crescendo. On the seventh night, while Colin stood in the moonlit studio, the mosaic displayed its ultimate trick. Reflections no longer followed their master, but acted of their own accord, giggling, whispering, plotting. They reached for him from the other side of the mosaic, hands stretching outward, as if the boundaries no longer existed.
The figures Colin lovingly recreated, transformed into grotesque realities. I told you, Shadow Dwellers. Beware when parts of us no longer align. The vibrancy twist to horror. The jagged parts in the mess scatter across him. He's nowhere. Hollow between split dimensions entering worlds. You feel erased. The poor foolish artist who experimented stared far too past safe. Sometimes Soul's tiny strings unravel dangerously trapping. Ensure the expanded voiceover is even more entertaining, but that it maintains the same style, tone, and key points as the original.